Okay, thank you, Karen. Thank you for the invitation. For me, it is very exciting to share with you what I have on my mind. In my context, in my country, in my culture, as we come from different countries, even though it's one continent, we have different experiences, different cultures, different understandings, different ways to guide our children. And it's interesting to see if what I have to say today could be helpful to any one of you. Before I start talking about us as parents or grandparents, I know, Karen, that we also have a grandma among us here. I would love to show you a picture of my family so that you know about what I'm talking. This is us. Last Tuesday, my wife and me experienced a very important day. Our younger daughter, you see her on the right side, turned 18. So for 1 week now, we are no more legal responsibles for our daughters. They are both grown-ups. And our older daughter, she is 22. She moved out of the house 2.5 years ago already. She said she was 19. She earned her own money and said, I love you. I had a wonderful childhood, but now I'm an adult. I'm leaving. And now she lives 3 blocks away from us. So it's easy to reach her by bicycle, which I'm very thankful for. Yeah, and my wife and me have entered the phase of our life where our children have grown up and leave us, and we have the time with the two of us, which we have always been looking forward to, and which is wonderful as well. Yeah. Whenever I teach with parents or grandparents or people in general, I always welcome everybody, especially you today, as experts on our expert panel, because I believe that it's not me who is the one who knows what to say tonight and who is the expert for this topic. I believe that every one of us is the expert for her or his own life. You are the one who knows best what is important for you and your family and yourself. And this talk might be well and interesting and helpful for you because someone who is not yourself, someone else, has some impulses that meet your impulses from the inside and might help to support. But it's not me who knows it all and who's sharing it so that you all know what you should do. That's very important for me to say. We are all the experts. Calming down in stressful moments is an issue, is a topic that for me personally is very, very personal. You know, if my daughters were here, they would say, oh, Papa, you are talking about calming down? Interesting. And I remember a few years ago, I taught something about calming down, and there's a YouTube video in Germany going around where I'm on a playground telling people how to calm down. And after like 3 or 4 years, my older daughter came and said, Daddy, I've just watched this YouTube video again where you talk about calming down. Do you know, nothing has changed. So I'm talking about myself. And I hope I'm not the only one here in this group who has to think about how we can manage in moments where we actually don't seem to have time to act carefully or to feel and understand what is happening inside of us. Get a kind of grip on ourselves and calm down, not because the outside is changing and calming down, but because there's something happening inside of us. So when we are talking about parenting today, when you are not a parent, always think about people in your life where you feel you have stressful moments with, or when your children are not at home anymore because they are grown-ups, you might think about situations with your grandchildren or with your neighbor's children or with other adults where you have stressful moments with. So find your own role in this parent word, so to say. My focus today, and that's important for me to say, it's not how we can calm down in order to better succeed in changing our children, or in better succeeding in bringing our children to what we think they should do. Tonight, I want to set the focus on ourselves. So it's not so much about how to change our children, but how to change, if it's possible, ourselves. So what is happening inside of me right now, in this moment, that helps me to calm down and understand what is happening? For me, and this is the last for the preliminaries, for me as a systemic therapist, Karen might understand what I mean, it is very important not to think in categories like what is right and what is wrong. Because I feel sometimes this judging does not help to expand our view, but makes us even more strict. I rather ask, what is helpful in this moment? What is helpful in this moment? And find out not what is right or wrong, but what helps me right now, or what helps my child right now, or my spouse right now. What is helpful in order to de-escalate the situation, in order to make a step towards solving a problem, or whatever is on the schedule. I would say, whenever you have a question, Karen, shall we do that they put it in the chat, or that they put up their hands and we react directly on it? What would you suggest?
I think it's up to you. If you want to, if there's times when you particularly want questions and comments, let us know. Okay. And then you can put up hands. If there are other questions, just put them in the chat. If you would like to think about them at the end, we can put them there. And sometimes you will answer questions as we go. So you can lead what you think is best.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So it could sometimes be that in the midst of what I'm talking about, I feel like I would like to ask you if it makes sense, in order to, because, you know, it's important that it makes sense to you, not only to me. So when it does not make sense to you, we need to clear what's happening. Okay, all about, when we talk about calming down, we also talk about what is going up inside of myself when I'm excited, when I'm enraged, when I am totally in stress. And I love the symbol of the snow globe. I don't know if you know snow globes. I've loved them when I was a child. You can ramble them, and when you keep them, you don't see anything but the snow. And when you wait for a moment, I don't know if you can see that. These are my little, this is like 5 years ago. They were 13 and 17. These are my girls. So in stressful moments, when I'm anger or in stress, I'm so shaken inside of myself that I can't get a clear sight of my children. I just see the snow. I just see all the thoughts, all the demands, all the expectations, all the things that shoulds, and all these things, and I cannot act out of a calm inner mood that really sees myself and my children. So when you are stressed, this is the question that you can answer for yourself right now. When you are stressed and high on the wire, are you able to describe what you feel and what is going on in your body? Are you able to describe what is going on in your mind? Or are you able to understand what you feel? Or is it that you only see, like myself, that you only see the snow flowing and everything is just like an inner chaos, and you are not able to act out of an inner clear presence that is helpful in this moment for your partner, your spouse, or your children? Throughout all my studies and things I read and my practice, I came to a sentence one of my supervisors said a few years ago that really struck me. And the sentence is, if we are able to calm ourselves, if we are able to calm ourselves, we can be helpful for others. If we are able to calm ourselves, we can be helpful for others. When I heard this sentence, what struck me the most was that I touched my inner longing to be helpful, especially for my daughters, especially for my wife when we are in conflict or in stress. So I was thinking about how can I learn to calm myself in the midst of stress and chaos? We'll have examples later on tonight. There are a lot of examples. So how can I reach a certain calmness, a certain inner presence that helps me to be helpful? It's a very, very interesting question for me. I would like to invite you to a little exercise that every one of us is doing for her or himself. And I would like to recollect a memory together with you of a moment where you were like this. The snow globe was snowy like whatever, and you were in the middle of such a situation where you were not able to calm yourself or to understand what was happening. And I would like to invite you to take something where you can write, to jot down some notes, and we try to go through the situation step by step to recollect what happened on the outside and what happened inside of yourself. Okay? Everyone is invited, no one is forced. This is my longing for freedom. Okay, so take a moment and remember a situation that was like a stressful, exhausting encounter with your child or your grandchild, or when you don't have children, your spouse or a good friend, where you would say that you escalated internally, so that your insight was like this. So first of all, jot down some words that describe what happened. What happened? Try to put your inner television on and relive the situation. What happened? And when you have recollected what happened, the next question is, what did you feel? What did you feel? What were your feelings? And when you describe your feelings, the third point is, can you locate any of these feelings in your body? So would you say that you had some inner body tensions that displayed these feelings? Like inner trembling or inner rush or coldness, or did you feel this feeling anywhere in your body? So what happened? What did you feel? Where did you feel it in your body? And in that moment, what did you think about yourself? Was there an inner notion that you had, that you said to yourself, or that expressed what you thought about yourself in this moment? Like a command or a critique? And what did you think about your child? What did you think about yourself, and what did you think about your child in this moment? Inner notion towards your child. And now what did you do? How did you act at this moment? Was it that you managed to calm down from your excitement? Or did your excitement showed on the outside and you flipped out or something? So how did you act? What happened on the outside? And what do you feel right now while you are recollecting and reimagining the situation? What do you feel right now, reimagining it? And the last step, and after this step, I'll pray. The last step is that I invite you to take a last look on what you jotted down. Try to imagine the situation. And imagine you're looking to yourself, like you're standing next to yourself and you're watching yourself, and say, yes, thank you. I'll tell you later why this yes, thank you is very important. So you're reimagining all what you wrote down, what you felt in your body, what you thought about yourself, what you thought about your child, what you did, how you acted, how your excitement showed up, if it calmed down or not. And you see all that and yourself in the situation, and you try to find out how you feel right now when you're reimagining it, and just look at that, look at yourself and say, yes, thank you. Okay, now I pray. This is not the end of the night, but it's an important moment because, yeah, Jesus, we are here as parents, as grandparents, as people who are encountering people every day. And we are in the middle of our lives in stressy situations and exciting situations, sometimes in anger or in despair and grief. And now we are here and we are reimagining a situation that was like that. And whenever we reflect on ourselves, I believe we are doing that in your presence. And in your presence, we are able to see all these things and to hold these things. And together with you after ask what is happening so that you can come in to that with your spirit, with your grace, with your openness, with your understanding, with your meekness. And through understanding and accepting ourselves, help us come down. The snow will still be there in the snow globe, but it has set so that we can have a clear sight on our children and on ourselves. And for me, this is not possible without you, because you are the one who knows me best and who can help me. And I thank you that this is true for every one of us. Amen. I have another picture that I show you. It is a pity that I have found out, Karen, maybe I'm not right, that there is a saying in German that you don't have in English. In English, I found out that people say, you are driving me up the wall. In German, we say, you are driving me up the palm. Du bringst mich auf die Palme, for all of us who speak German. So I love this picture, you know, a person sitting on the palm, totally out of herself or out of himself, totally excited. And the interesting thing is, when I say, you are driving me up the palm or the wall, it is important that I listen to the way how I say it. Because I say, you are the one who is responsible for my feelings. Because you are driving me up the palm. You are driving me up the wall. What you did was the cause that I'm up here now. And the responsibility for that is what you did, or what you didn't do, or whatever. My perspective on that has changed throughout the last, I would say, 20 years, because I have found out I am the one who climbs up the palm. I've never experienced that my 3-year-old daughter had the power to take me on her arms, or take me under one of her arms and bring me up the palm. It was myself, my reaction, my expectations of situations, my sight on things, my notions or my demand of life, or what I expect of others, of life, of God, of my children, that I would say is the cause for the palm that I place myself. So no one is driving me on the palm. It's myself who is starting to climb up the palm. Important to say right now for me is, what I just said was not a criticism, because that we all have expectations, notions and demands and expectations is normal. So it is, I would say, it is impossible not to have palms. It is impossible, you know, my life is full of palms, you know, my life is a palm forest. And it is totally unrealistic to expect, even after reading millions of books or visiting retreats, that for whatever reason, it makes it not possible for us to cut down all the palm trees. So it's not about losing all that, but it's about understanding, getting to know myself better and understand what is happening while I'm climbing on this palm. And what is happening when I'm sitting up there yelling or trembling or raging, whatever it is that brings me on the palm. I just said it, that brings me on the palm, that I climbed up the palm. So a little example, because I think I start climbing up the palm when I am in the midst of my expectations and demands, and I don't know what is happening inside of myself. So one example that I would say was one of the classical Karsten examples when my children were still young. I would like to say that whenever we visited other families, or whenever I took my daughters from their girlfriends back home, I was very happy to see other children's rooms. They were as untidy and as distorted as the children's rooms of my children. Before I had seen other children's rooms, I thought like my children had a problem, or I was a bad parent, whatever. Whenever I saw other children's rooms, I was happy, because I know you understand what I mean. That's why you're laughing. And one of the greatest things, so, you know, I would say my favorite palm when my kids were young was the tidy up your room palm. You know, for example, my wife was out of house because she worked something, I don't know, I was alone here. And typical would be that, let's say at 4:00 p.m., I had a Bible lesson in our living room with someone from church. And at, let's say, 3:30, it came up to me. I said, girls, your rooms look like totally distorted. I want you to clear up the room, and we have 30 minutes before my next appointment starts. Okay, expectation. I expect that the three of us, my girls and myself, will get all this action done within 30 minutes. Oh, okay. The demand I have was that my kids instantly react on what I advise them, or order them, better said, and do exactly what I want them to do, and nothing will challenge that from the outside. So I start remaining in the picture, climbing up the palm. And I feel, okay. I say, girls, we talked about it 5 minutes ago. I said at 4:00 in 30 minutes, I'll have my next appointment in the living room. And I want your kids' rooms be tied up before I have to go, or before the bell rings. And I expect of you that you do what I want. And, you know, I'm a very, I would say, very nice father. I'm not yelling. I'm not yelling every time, and not instantly. It takes time before I really come out of myself, so to say. But of course, I've almost experienced in situations like this that my girls don't do what I want them to do. And I did not succeed in questioning myself. Okay, Karsten, possibly my ladies will start discussing, and we might need more time to get the whole action going. Quite a stressful plan. I often, especially in stressy situations, I don't have the inner time or inner presence to question my plan. And when I'm not aware of my expectation determines me. And I evaluate and judge the experiences and the people according to whether they contribute to fulfill my ideas and plans or not. And the classical outcome often was, after a few minutes, I always said, you know, whenever you start tidying up, I'll help you, no problem. I've always helped my children, but you have to start. And when they didn't start, took like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before I started yelling, slapped the door and went out. I said, do all your stuff alone. On the palm. I always went into the kitchen after this situation, very angry about myself because I should have known it better. And my kids were crying. What I also want to say in this moment is that without no exception, it took us no longer than 10 minutes to clear the situation and everything was good again. So that was pretty easy with the three of us. But the fact that the situations always escalated like that had to do with myself not being aware of what I'm expecting of myself and what I'm expecting of my children in these situations. Another example would be, imagine you had a three hours drive in the car with 3 kids on the back seat, and your expectation was that during this 3 hours driving, let's say it's 3 wild boys, will only have one fight of maximum 5 minutes. This could be, depends on the boys. This could be an expectation that is destined to frustrate you, because it's hard for kids 3 hours driving while not having many breaks or pauses, not to escalate on the back seat sometimes. So when your kids do not stand your expectations, do not fulfill your expectations, or you yourself do not fulfill the expectations, you will frustrate. And as you frustrate, you will think of yourself as the bad parent, and you will think of your children as bad children. And you're sitting there on your palm feeling lonely and sad. I saw that we had a question in the chat. Give me a minute to read it. Great. How did you know what happened at our house yesterday? Thank you, Karen. I knew it because it happened in my house for many years every day. It's interesting that our reaction on that, like my reaction right now, Karen, what you just wrote, or Karin, I don't know how you say your name, is that we are laughing. And this laughing, I think, has to do with we understand each other. It is like a connection. Whenever I talk to parents and I see your reactions on what I'm telling you about myself, I feel connected. We understand each other, even though we have different cultures, different languages, different ways of guiding our children. Actually, we understand each other. I want to go back to this moment that I just mentioned, that when I had this tidy up your room fight with my children, I went into the kitchen. My times in the kitchen have changed throughout the years. The first times I went into the kitchen, I took some things and just threw it somewhere because I was very angry, and I never spanked my girls, but I was like taking spoons or knives and just smashing them in the edges of the kitchen, not to my kids, just when I was alone. And from time to time, I felt that these little moments in the kitchen where I am alone could be moments where I start feeling what I feel, hearing what I think, feeling what my body says, and understanding what is going on inside of myself. Getting aware of knowing what there is in myself. Anger on myself and on my kids. Disappointment, myself and my kids. Fear, panic, stress. When getting aware of it is one thing. The second thing is, for me, a lot harder, is just being aware of it without instantly and immediately judging it. My inner natural tendency is, oh, Karsten, you were so angry again. You slammed the door again. Oh, what a bad father you are. You know, you are preaching every Sabbath about love and meekness and kindness, and you're slamming your girl's door. And you know, last time you did that, you decided not to do it anymore again. So what kind of father are you? This is my natural tendency. But when we get aware of what is there inside of us, and we are aware of the situation, of the things that we have just done, and we immediately start to judge it, we are pressing it down without changing it. We just try to put it away. But the things don't go away before they are not accepted, that they are there. I've read a book, many books about that, and I've practiced a lot of self-awareness things, and I came to a word, a saying that said, moments like these need radical acceptance. My wife doesn't like it because radical sounds like radical. For her, it sounds like you have to radically accept what is happening there. It's like an inner force that you give yourself. But for me, you know, in these, when I say radical acceptance, I totally feel understood, because for me, it is hard to accept that I am like that I have acted like that. This is hard for me to accept. And radical has this notion of, yeah, Karsten, accept it. This is radical, I know. But this is how you have just acted. And there is a reason for why you are acting like this. And imagine you were your very best friend and you were sitting next to yourself, watching you behaving like this. What would your very best friend say? He would not yell at you. He might not even judge you. Say, yeah, okay, it was not okay, but it happened. You did it. You felt like it. It was a hard situation for you. I mean, 30 minutes for tidying up 2 children's rooms before you start a Bible study in the living room. I mean, this is nonsense, actually. So this radical acceptance does not mean, so please don't misunderstand me. Radical acceptance does not mean that we lay our hands in our slaps saying, I am like it, I can't change it, it is like it is. This is resignation or fatalism. What I mean is that this awareness helps me to be wide awake. What is going on in myself, understand it, and come to a point where I feel an inner presence. I'm totally with myself. And when I'm totally with myself, I can be with you as well. Because connection with you comes through a connection that I have with myself and through myself with you. There's a wonderful scripture in Psalm 139 that, where I would say David says exactly that. You know, when I said in this kitchen moment, I was imagining how it would be if my very best friend would sit next to me. I also started to talk with Jesus about myself. Actually, prayer, my understanding of prayer is I'm talking with Jesus and myself about myself. And Jesus is listening, and Jesus is talking into it. And he gets the access all area pass and can say anything, anytime. Because he's always right. And David says, Psalm 139, verse 23 and 24. You know, Psalm 139 is this psalm where David, I would say, very intimately talks about that there's no place in his life where he is not in God's presence. And this is not fearful and shaky for him, but very, very calming and safe. And at the end of this poem, he says, "Search me, O God, and know my heart." And God says, "Karsten, come on, let's search you and know your heart. What is going on in yourself? What is happening? What do you feel? What do you think of yourself and of your children? What does your body say? How do you feel? Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my anxieties. And see if there is any wicked way in me." You know, this wicked is a very hard word for godlessness. This is my understanding. You could also say, if there is a hard way with me, a way in me that causes suffering for myself and suffering for the people around me. So show me if there is a way of suffering in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. So help me to find a way, taking our context now, help me to find a way that is helpful for the situation, helpful for myself to calm down and meet my children, to find a way to be aware of what is happening, coming down. For example, I start kids, 30 minutes Bible study. You go to your rooms. I'll help you if you start. And they don't react. I mean, not today, because they are 22 and 18, so I don't force them to to clear up their rooms anymore. But today, I would say after 5 minutes, I would feel like, okay, Karsten, I would take this quiet moment for a second, say, okay, here's the palm, I'm starting to climb up. And I imagine what happens if I start talking louder, because I don't know who invented that you think that when you talk louder, your kids will listen more. It doesn't work, actually. It hasn't worked in my life. Maybe someone else knows how and could give seminars about it. But and as I understand, okay, I start climbing up the wall because I recognize what is going on inside of me right now. And I accept here now, without judging, that I'm breathing harder. I remember myself that I should inhale and exhale, and then decide if I want to fight or not. And some situations I said, okay, kids, I feel we cannot make it right now. So you don't clear up your rooms right now, because I don't have the time to help you. I have my appointment. We'll talk about it later. Nothing escalates, and the kids know I'll come back and we'll talk about it when I have more time. Or I also experienced that in another, when I am aware what is inside of me and when I'm calmer inside, I have a stronger presence. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes in this inner stronger presence, I can say in calm words, kids, for us, that it is important that from time to time, we clear up our rooms. For all the reasons I don't have to tell you as parents and grandparents. And I just want to remind you that we have talked about it yesterday and the day before yesterday, that today is the day for tidying up our rooms. And sometimes in this clearness, before I start escalating, before I start thinking about my bad kids or thinking about me as a bad father, my kids understand and can cling to this value that we have as a family, that we are tidying up our rooms. I'm just thinking for a second because I feel that my time is getting up. I always have more. I always have more on my sheets than I have time. Better than having not enough, but okay. I would say to this point, do you have any comments or questions? Has it made sense what I said to you, or what would you like to add to it or ask before we take the last round, so to say? Just raise your hands and unmute yourself.
I think it's making lots of good sense to us as we go through these things. We've all been in those situations. So I would say it's really helpful to slow down and have a good look at what can be done at different points in it. And at least for me, I'm following it and it's making a lot of good sense. So thank you.
Thank you. Elena, did you? Okay, you didn't. Okay.
Any questions? Anyone else? Any thoughts?
What if things get out of hand emotionally? How do you solve these after these situations? Yeah. What if things get out of hand emotionally? How do you solve these after these situations? Okay, I hope I understand what you mean, and go back into the situation with my children and I slam the door. I would say, when I myself as a father say, do all this stuff alone and slam the door, this, I would say, got out of hand emotionally. Go into the kitchen. I'll answer this question a little longer, because this directly brings me to the overview of the whole evening. And then you will know what I would say to this. I share my screen. I asked my wife to paint it a little fancy. You will get that later. So these quiet moments in the kitchen, I recognize what is going on inside me right now, what we already said. And I accept what is inside of me right now without judging it. And what helps me this moment is this safe this safety David feels in his relationship with God in Psalm 139, so that he can say, search me, O God, and know my heart. God, you can see everything. I know I don't have to, and I don't want to hide anything before you. And I want, together with you, search my heart and understand what is going on. And then I go and say, okay. And I go deeper. Step 3, I explore myself and look deeper. What do my body, my feelings, and my mind want me to tell? So my body I might feel my fists are like, and I take the next spoon and throw and crash it into the edge of the room. Or I feel I have this restlessness in myself and say like, oh, I have to change this. Oh man, and then I go to my feelings and I feel despair. Okay, there's despair. Okay, and there's anger. Okay, I feel I'm sad. Okay. Oh yeah, and right now comes the judging. I again just said, I'm a bad parent. I'm a bad father. I will not make it. And I feel like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking in a bad way about my children who never understand what I really want and who are selfish and all these things. And I experience all these things in myself, in my body, my feelings, and my mind. And I just take it. And then I say this sentence that is so helpful for myself. I say, Jesus, you are here in the midst of it. And you see all that. And I breathe in and I breathe out. Sometimes 10 times. Because God has given us our breath because it helps to calm down our bodies. And then I take my last step before I go back to my children. I understand that I am not my thoughts and I am not my feelings. What I mean by that is, I'll stop sharing my screen because I want to see you. Sometimes my anger or my despair is so overwhelming that I feel like there's nothing else inside myself than anger and all these things. And then when I make myself aware of the fact that I am not the anger and not the despair, I can also find space for other feelings I also have inside of myself. Feelings like love for my children. And I may hear them crying in their room. And I feel some pity and some love feelings, and like I would like to go back. Or I feel I remember moments where we found a good solution for problems, and this gives me courage, or I get so moments where I remember other feelings that are inside of myself that give me the courage or the encouragement to say that, okay, it has happened the way it has happened. And now we are, as I'm trying to understand myself, coming down a little bit. Then I'll go back to my children. This is what I've always done. Open the door. I mean, knocked at the door. And they said, yeah. They knew I came back. And I say, kids, I'm sorry for slamming the door. I could have stayed and have more patience. My kids are not at home, so I cannot ask them if I'm, because I don't want to tell you, I want to tell you the truth, but in my remembrance, without any exception, after I said, I'm sorry for this, they said for what they were sorry. And then it always ended by hugging each other and then starting immediately or at another point of time that we have talked about doing that. So I don't know if that is, I meant how to solve these situations with children when they have seen hard that we are all over the place. Okay. Okay, so if this is rightly spelled, okay, this might mean you might mean that this answer was satisfying for you in a kind. Okay. So I was talking so long because I wanted to get through all these 5 steps, so to say. You know, this is not a recipe that always works, because life is non-controllable. This is not step 1 to 5, do it this way and you will get this outcome. This would be another expectation that helps me to build my next palm. But it is a practice that helps me to understand that sometimes, as I know I cannot change my children, but I can change myself. You know, this is a feeling that I know so well as a father, this feeling of having no control. What's the word in English? Kontrollverlust. No control. Just no control. I can do whatever I want. You know, the kids are doing what they want. The only person actually I can get a grip to is myself. And this is the way how I've found to get a grip on myself in order to be able to understand myself and calm down in order to in order to be helpful to my kids. Karen, you wrote something in the chat.
Yes, I wrote that.
Say it, yeah.
Yeah, many years ago, when my children were quite small, I remember getting really wound up about something. And so I asked my husband to look after them while I went into the garden. And out there, I found a big pot of their bubbles. And I just started blowing. And I soon realized that when I blew the bubbles, I calmed down so much. And then the children came out and blew bubbles with me. And it was a really good way to kind of reset. And even now, I don't have small children, I have grandchildren. And but when I find myself in stressful situations of any kind, imagining that I'm blowing bubbles and even kind of imagining them floating away in the sunlight and sparkling and taking those deep breaths really calms me down a lot. I use it a lot, and often only 3 big deep breaths, imagining I'm blowing big bubbles, really helps me to calm. So that's just another way of doing it. Just imagining you're blowing bubbles, or just do it for real because they're fun anyway, and that tends to cheer me up. But I was also thinking apologizing to our children is really important, and we probably don't do it enough. And that's a really good way to reset. Like you said, when you are able to apologize to them, they almost immediately apologize too, because when we set that example of how to make an apology, then we help children to apologize well. And how will they know if we don't apologize to them? So I think it's really important part of parenting that we can be adult enough to apologize to our children and teach them what that looks like, and not feel that we have to be so proud or so perfect that we shouldn't apologize.
Yeah, this is what Elena just wrote in the chat. Now, this is my experience. Since I started apologizing for excessive behavior with my children, anger or bad words or raising my voice, it is even more easy for them to apologize when they are wrong.
Absolutely, yeah.
We are, it's the example. It's the example that we give.
And I think they really appreciate our ability to do that. That speaks a lot of love to them when we will say, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I don't want to do that again, please forgive me. Next time I want to try to do this instead, and have a commitment to what we want to do. And we may well mess up again, we're human, but that good apology without any buts or excuses is really helpful.
Because when I apologize, my kids see that I take the responsibility for what I have done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not you drove me up the wall, or you brought me on the palm, but it is myself. It was the way how I acted, the way how my expectations, whatever all these things that we were talking tonight about. It is my experience. It's my responsibility. One of the worst sentences I often hear of parents is they are fighting with their children, and then after they got up the wall or the palm, they say, okay, do whatever you want, you'll see what you have of it. This gives the whole responsibility to the children. They cannot stand it. They might do what they want. They will watch TV as long as they want. They might do whatever, but they have the burden of the responsibility because the parents don't take it. And that's hard. It's hard.
Yes, I think also when we ask forgiveness, it's like when we lose it, then it kind of, the relationship gets broken a bit. And then when we ask for forgiveness, it's a really powerful way to help do that mending again. And I guess what happens also is that it helps stimulate the oxytocin in our brain and theirs, which is a really good part of the calming, as well as we come close and say, I'm sorry. There's a special thing that I think that happens in that space.
Yeah. So we are all in the same boat.
And I'm learning now in a different way because I have 3 grandchildren, and at least 2 of them are neurodivergent and really struggle when they get overwhelmed with their feelings. One of them in particular can become extremely aggressive towards people and threatening, just because he is panicking with his fear. And I have to be the one to stay calm when he cannot manage it anymore. And so it's really quite a special place when we have children around us with special needs. How we need to respond in those situations is even more like crucial, I think, because of their fragility.
Yeah, because if a child is overwhelmed with its own feeling, and we come with our overwhelming feelings and add it up to that, but still expect that the child understands and changes, and so intense.
Mm-hmm.
Traumatic, actually. If you have the energy and the time, I would like to we can talk as long as you want to talk, but before we get like something like a roundup, I would like to invite you to another exercise at the end, which is a little bit like the first one, but a little more intense. Do we have the time, Rebecca and Karen? So this time I would I give you a little overview. This time I ask you again to imagine one of these typical situations where you are sitting on your palm, where you are climbing up your palm, like my typical situation with tidying up the room and slamming the door. And then I would like, in our imagination, go through these 5 steps in order to get an even more direct connection between the theory of these things and the way how we can prepare ourselves for the next time when we want to apply them. Okay? This time I would invite you just, I would say, don't necessarily take a pen and write things down. Just find a comfortable way how you sit or lay down, whatever, so that we can get into this imagination. So that's not just our brain, but also our feeling. So it's, our feeling gets deeper than our brain. than our thinking. Okay? Okay, so make yourself comfortable. And try to find one of these classical palm situations in your everyday life with your kids, where you have been climbing up your palm so often. And in my instructions that I'm getting alongside with you right now, I'll switch into the present tense, so that I feel all of us in exactly the situation right now, as if it would happen now. So you are there on the palm, feel into yourself. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts about yourself, the kids, life? And what are your feelings? And what would you most likely do now in your excitement? So if you would not control yourself, what would you do most likely? Just hold that, this moment, without acting, and say to yourself, I recognize what is going on inside of myself right now. I recognize it. This is how I think and how I feel. And consciously breathe in and breathe out a few times. And if you have bubbles at hand, blow the bubbles, like Karen told us. And while you see your thoughts and feel your feelings in your mind and your feelings in your body, maybe judgment comes up. Thoughts about yourself, your family, or your kids that judge. Just accept that you are judging. We were trained to judge. We cannot just put it off immediately. Just recognize that you tend to judge yourself and your children and family. Maybe God as well, or life at all. Pause for a moment and try to say to yourself, I hold that, I take what is right now. What do you feel in your body? What does your body say? Is your belly rumbling? Are you trembling inside? Is it getting hot or cold? You feel kind of hardness. Take a moment to explore this. And when you have a certain feeling somewhere in your body, try to put your hand on the spot, just to show yourself, I see it, I feel it, and I sit with it. This is how it is right now. This is what I feel. This is what I think. This is what I judge. And in the midst of the self-awareness that you are having right now, say to yourself, Jesus, you are here. Your spirit is inside of me. In all that, Jesus, you are here. See if your arousal, your excitement, your feelings change or not. Sometimes things change, sometimes they don't. And as you are sitting in all these thoughts and feelings and body tensions together with Jesus, holding it, try to see what there is inside of yourself beside these negative feelings and thoughts and excitement. Maybe you also feel joy, because while you are exploring your negative thoughts about your children, you feel like, oh, I love them so much because they are a part of me. They are my children. Or maybe you remember another situation like this where you made it to act differently. And you can be thankful to God and yourself that you made it differently last time. And maybe, yeah, this feeling comes up right now and you have that one as well. So look for powerful and positive things. Think about positive and powerful, loving, near experiences with yourself, with your spouse, with your children. And add this to your excitement, arousal that you've had in this stressy situation up there on your palm. Because this is also there. Because this is also part of you. When you sit, feel your feet on the ground. Feel that you are grounded. When you lay down, feel how you lay there where you lay. When you stand, feel how you stand firm. You're safe. You're safe. Jesus, you are here, and I am holding, accepting what is right now. And now, imagine you are meeting your child and standing or sitting face to face with your child. What do you want to say to your child in this moment? What do you want to say? Facing your child, looking in her or his eyes, what would you like to say or do in this moment now? I pray. Yeah, right now I would like to say my Heavenly Father, because we're all children, your children. Thank you that you are loving us with this unconditional love, because I believe it is your unconditional love that is the basis for moments like these, for practices like these, where we, together with you, without judging, face what is inside of us and experience that you are there with us, that you come alongside of us, and that we are going through all these situations together with you. And you're laying your hands on our wounded spots, on our anger, on our rage, because they all have reasons. And you help us to understand and accept, because this is the beginning of change. This is the beginning of change. And because I feel so safe in your presence, I want to say with David, search me, O God, and know my heart. You can see it all. And I ask you to try me and know my anxieties. And see if there's any hard way in me. And lead me in the way everlasting, so that I can be helpful. And I thank you that you know all of us personally. And as you live in us through your Holy Spirit, you know which impulse or thought that we had tonight would be valuable for any one of us, and you will pursue it with us. And this is why we all lay ourselves trustful in your hands. Thank you for your love. Well, this is how we want to learn to love as well. Bless us and bless our families. Amen. Thank you very much for your time and for not leaving. Is there anything